Come, enter the halls of medicine. Bring your sore and scratchy throat. Bring your cough. Bring your nose when it feels stuffy. Because the halls of medicine are Hall's Vapor Action Cough Suppressant Tablets. They quickly soothe your throat, quiet your cough, and make your nose feel clearer. Hall's Vapor Action Cough Suppressant Tablets. Come to the halls of medicine to feel better fast.
How should we start this puppy?
Well, I don't know. We should have brought the pianos out. We could have done a duet, a little heart and soul duet.
My neighbor, she's in her 90s, and now they moved her to a assisted living facility, and she has a piano in there. And they said I can have the piano if I want it, and now I'm trying to figure out where I would put a piano. It's a nice upright from the 50s. And I'm like, I wanted to learn the piano anyway. So what better way to start tickling the ivories? But then my wife's like, well, something's got to move out of the house to get a piano. And I was like, no, we can just put it in the kitchen.
Put it in the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. Put it in the tub, which would be odd. But I can't let a piano go by without, love an old stand-up. So... Well, we're back again.
One more time. One more ride.
One more time into the breach. Welcome to Saturday Night Movie Sleepovers. Good to have you with us. You may all be seated. What's going on?
It's an extra late night for Saturday Night Movie Sleepovers.
Extra late night, yeah.
Got that Sunday morning sun just about to come up.
Yeah, it's the darkest part of the night before the dawn, and it's dark out. But we can tell in the eastern sky, it's looking a little blue. So, late night, we had some diversions. Got us all off kilter. Ass over tit, as they say.
Well, we watched a big one tonight.
We did. We watched a large, big one. Something I haven't seen since it first came on home video back in 1988, and I remember watching it with the parental units and getting uncomfortable in a scene, and then I was like, oh, because I was young and I didn't know what the thing between my legs did. Well, I did, but And then, it's always awkward watching sexy stuff with the parents. So that was one of my only memories of it. And then at the end, I remembered that too. And then, of course, the iconic scenes. But aside from that, I'd forgotten a lot of the details of the film. So it was fun to revisit this baby, this seminal classic from 1988.
Good old 88.
Good year 88.
Fine vintage.
Yeah.
Year of Halloween 4.
Yeah,
the return of Halloween 4. The return of Michael Myers.
And maybe even the year of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I don't remember. I used to always say it was 87, but I think it is 88. A lot of good movies from that year. This might be the first. Is this the first Tom Hanks movie we're doing?
Yeah, surprisingly. And not the one I would have thought we would have done first. I figured we would have done like Burbs or Bachelor Party or
that horror movie he did.
Yeah.
Or Saving Private Ryan or Punchline.
Some bosom buddies.
Bosom buddies. I don't think that's appropriate nowadays. People may have issues with bosom buddies. But it's Tom Hanks. But there's a lot of repeat offenders on this too. Robert. I said Frank. Robert Loggia. He's in this. I don't know if Francis Fisher's been on the podcast before. Who else is in this? So there are other. I feel like there's other repeat offenders. There's a Darren McGavin connection. If we really want to go into the weeds later on. But we're doing from 1988 Big, starring Tom Hanks.
Starring Tom Hanks. I saw this at the movies.
You did.
I recall that. And I've seen it probably 150 times since then. So, in fact, I've watched it like 3 times since in like the last year, probably year and a half.
Why? Because it's just on, or you're like, I'm putting Big on because I have to hit that moment.
Maybe it wasn't that short a time. I remember there was one of the times when I was in California filming the documentary. It was on Pluto. So I watched some of it, and then someone who was helping me, Adam, who we went to college with, he showed up. He's like, "Are you watching Big?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Sweet." And then we went and we did the interviews. And when I came back, I just started it over from the top and watched it. And then,
God bless Pluto.
And then I've seen it. I've seen it a couple times since then. I watch it pretty regularly. Obviously, I'm a big fan of this one. That's
like my wife. She can say the whole rap, front to back, the Jimmy Cocoa Pup or whatever it is. I was like, oh yeah. I've always known the connection with Rye Playland because that's kind of near where we went to college, and it's still kind of near me. And so that's fun at the end of the movie and stuff like that. I didn't remember that it was a traveling carnival, so at the beginning they were someplace else. So I was like, this isn't Rye Playland.
Yeah.
But and then FAO Schwartz, it's nice to go there. I was able to go to the old one before that one closed down in like 2013 or 14 or something like that, and then they moved, and now they're at Rockefeller Center. Now it's like a big clear Apple store there across from the plaza where it used to be.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the other parts of it, it's kind of hard to determine where they are in New York City for a lot of the scenes.
Yeah, I was wondering that a lot. I feel like,
I mean, there's the Times Square scene at the beginning, when they go there. That's iconic. But aside from that, I couldn't tell. There weren't long enough shots to figure out if they're like on the west side or downtown. I think they're in the Village, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely stuff when I was watching. I was like, where is that? And I think some of it, the parts that I was thinking might be down in the financial district.
Oh, yeah.
Just judging by the buildings and the collections of old buildings and more modern looking buildings. Just look, I worked down there for a long time, so I didn't know exactly where it was, but I was like, that looks like it's probably down in the financial district. I was talking to
back in your boiler room days.
I was talking to a lawyer about the documentary, and I was like, well, where are you guys located? Where's the office located? He's like, oh, FIDI. It took me like 10 minutes to figure out that he was talking about the financial district.
Oh.
I didn't know there was slang for it. FIDI.
There's slang for it all, like Dumbo and all that stuff, or Chinatown.
Crazy Little Italy.
Yeah. Which is just a street now, sadly. Harlem. Come on. So, yeah, can you imagine how much his apartment goes for now? I mean, because I knew a lot of people, like, I had a couple cameramen who worked with me years ago who bought their buildings in the 80s, like in Alphabet City when everything was like really, really bad. And now, like, they're like multi-million-dollar buildings now. They held on to it for so many years, So I can't imagine how much that space would be like to rent or to like if he owned it, now.
Yeah, that big loft space.
Yeah, 50 foot. Not 50 foot, but I guess it could have been because they're got a damn trampoline in it.
That's true.
So I mean, it's pretty high ceilings, like a converted factory. It's like the old Triangle T-shirt factory. So yeah, this is one you suggested, and I was like, yeah, I can revisit that bad boy.
I had thought you had never seen it, so
I've seen it. I saw it when it came out, and I had vivid memories of seeing it, and I always liked it. I'm not the biggest Tom Hanks fan. I always liked him as a comedian, and then when he did Philadelphia, he kind of like never did comedy again until like the Lady Killers. I might be mistaken or a little hyperbole, but then he went dramatic. And he's good in what he does and stuff like that. But and I used to love, like, for a while he used to be on Saturday Night Live so much they would make a joke, him and Alec Baldwin, like, were in a special members only club on Saturday Night Live because they were always being guests and stuff. So I used to always enjoy that. So, but it's crazy because since we age with these people, I look at Tom Hanks now and he looks normal, but then when we go back and watch this movie, I'm like, wow, he does look really young in this, and obviously it's because he's like 31 when he did this.
Yeah.
So the passage of time is crazy. But yeah, I'd only seen it once. Right when it came out on video, we rented it and we watched it, and I enjoyed it. And then I don't know why I've seen clips of it, but I never revisited it as much as you have.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like I just happened to watch it a lot in the last year or two, a few times. But before that, I hadn't seen it in a while. I wouldn't say it's on, rotation.
Sounds like it though,
but
unless it's just coincidental.
It has been in the last couple of years, and but there are definitely movies that I watch at least yearly.
Yeah.
This one just happened to be one that I watched a lot over the last year or two,
and it fits into our thing too. We planned it straight in the 80s this year.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit like. I could definitely make similarities or comparisons, I guess, to Daryl and Teen Witch with this one. There's definitely an 80s feel, but also kind of an 80s display, an 80s era version of Innocence. Daryl is, for all intents and purposes, kind of a robot who wants to be a real boy, and Teen Witch is a girl who wants to be popular, and this is about a kid that wants to be big and then wants to be small again. There's a lot of wanting. There's a lot of longing this year on
and it goes along with Midnight Run, the season opener, 88 as well, where he just wants to be free, Grodin.
Grodin wants to be free, and De Niro just wants to get him across the country so he can get his payday.
So that's another. So we're firmly stuck with between 85 and 88 this year. Oh no, 89 because Teen Witch was 89. We're doing a really finite gap,
keeping it tight.
Yeah, we're really pinpointing something, the sweet spot.
This is certainly probably the biggest movie we've done, no pun intended, this year, in terms of success and critical acclaim. And
Midnight Run did pretty well too, right?
It did, but this one was like nominated for Academy Awards and stuff.
That's crazy. People they nominated Best Actor and stuff, and I mean not crazy. I mean like it's ridiculous. It's just wow. Okay, I don't know how bad the season was, and they're like, yeah, give Tom Hanks a nomination, But I guess it's firmly secured because you think about like I probably first saw Tom Hanks in Splash. I was a big Splash fan as a kid with him and Candy, and of course Daryl Hannah. But I can't remember. I've seen Bachelor Party once, and I only remember segments of it, and then I've never seen Punchline. Although, like, I've always heard that monologue that's actually really sad, like when he breaks down on stage.
Yeah, but I mean, Punchline is not. I watched it probably over the pandemic. I mean, it's not really a comedy. It's more of a drama.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way when he has that like breakdown on stage. I forget for what I've seen, but yeah, this really solidified him in a sense of that. Where him starting out in TV, doing Bosom Buddies, or being the uncle on Family Ties.
that would definitely be. Dion and I were talking about maybe doing a sidecast of very special episodes. And
you're right, because he's a drinker, right? He's an alcoholic.
He's an alcoholic in that one.
Yeah, because I sent you the
Small Wonder.
The Small Wonder episode. That was crazy. You are missing. This could have been a crossover with Big. You're on a milk carton, Josh.
And Daryl.
And Daryl too, yeah. And then I recently saw it was on, I don't know, maybe Instagram where there's people cut up things. And so I saw the very quick synopsis or like the best scenes of the different strokes, the very special episode of the Back of the Bike Shop episode. So Jesus, that was horrifying where the kid comes out without his shirt on and he's like, yeah, he wanted me to take pictures. And I was like, oh my gosh, drinking wine or whatever back. That's like, they got serious when they got serious.
Yeah.
There ain't no Doobie Brothers bootlegging, like in What's Happening, you know. Yeah, this came out and this has got a lot of fun stuff in it. And of course, it's so iconic now. Yeah, you know, it's like, it's funny how these movies come out, and I mean, I don't know how widely watched it is nowadays for people who are younger, but then certainly I think people know the piano and stuff like that, and it's almost homage so many times or referenced. Even when you go to the new FAO Schwartz, they still have the piano out. You take your shoes off, you can go play on it for a while and stuff like that. So I'm sure that is probably because of Big and the popularity of Big. They kept that like as a permanent installation.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I feel like I've seen stuff about younger generations than us finding this movie pretty problematic, as they do most of the stuff from our childhood. But
I think everything's problematic.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So
I mean, but it has that 80s feel. I mean, there's an F-bomb in it, even though it's a PG movie. You know, I mean, there's it's all the kids stuff we remember, that what we always talk about like kids in the treehouse with Playboys or swearing or whatever, or you know, it's got that kind of sentimentality when all that stuff was kind of normal. And, you know, you didn't think anything, you know, if your parents are taking you to see this movie and there's, you know, a sex scene or whatever, or, you know, Tom Hanks is looking down his shirt, you know, our parents are like, okay, it's fine. You know,
oh yeah. I mean,
don't worry. They're going to have to learn somehow.
I watched far worse stuff than this with my parents.
Like I said, the movie I remember my dad really censoring me from, of course, was RoboCop in the theater. And then I remember watching Big Bad Mama. Is that it? The Ma Barker movie with the gangster movie. And I feel like there's a lot of nudity in that one, or unless it's the second one. And then I remember like being uncomfortable because I'm watching it with my dad, you know? But yeah, I don't find this as problematic as other movies that,
well, it has to do with the fact that he's 13 and has sex.
No, well, you know, bless his cotton socks. I thought it'd be really weird at the end if she like, then she's like, all right, let me like, cause if this is the hypocrisy of modern day, where it's like, you know, if you frequent the pornography sites, that's all they throw on you now. They suggest like these terrible situations because we're so desensitized. So now you have these, you know, it's like, you know, the family dynamic and stuff like that, where, you know, remember the classic movie Taboo I loved. That was because it was called Taboo, but now it's like normal. So it's like, if you made this nowadays, you know, you might get like that, like, all right, let me give you something to remember me by. And then she gives him like a really hard kiss or something like that. You know what I mean? But, she does mention like, hey, you know, why don't you save my number for 10 years? So if you think about it, if he's 13 and she's 20, I forget what 27 or 29 when she made this movie.
Yeah.
Or 28. That would kind of work, I guess. You know, she'd be 38, he'd be 23. So it's like, all right, you know, dating older woman, you know, who cares?
Yeah. This, there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot of story.
But in her defense, let me just add, you can't really blame her because she didn't know what to do.
No, she didn't know.
You know, but if I guess it would take, be like, you know, more shades of something if he told her before and she's like, all right, well, I'm going to make your fantasies, you know.
You know, one of my favorite thing about this movie is the cast. And, but I feel like we should unpack some stuff before we get there.
So I should open up this suitcase.
But I feel like the strongest part of this movie is the casting. But this movie kind of originates with a kernel of an idea with the writer Gary Ross, who wrote another one of my favorite movies, Dave. He also wrote and directed Pleasantville, Seabiscuit, which is one of my mom's favorite movies, and the original Hunger Games movies. Apparently he was kind of sitting at a table or sitting someplace with a buddy, and that kind of as a game, he was like, you know, give me a minute on the clock. I'll give you as many ideas for movies as I can come up with. And he's coming up with all these crazy concepts like a cat becomes a dog or a dog becomes a cat.
Done that already.
Disney's
done that already.
And he says that kid becomes an adult, and that one kind of stuck with him. He's like, there's actually some potential for that. Now there had been movies, and this particular year, 1988, saw many Freaky Friday style switch movies. but so he has that idea, and I guess he knew Anne Spielberg, who was or is Steven Spielberg's sister, and they had decided that they were going to collaborate on something, and he brought this idea to her. And then they sat and they talked about it for like 2 hours, and she recorded the conversation. And they say that about 2/3 or 3/4 of the ideas they came up with on that original tape are still in the movie. They're like, well, if he grows up, then he's going to have to get a job, and then maybe he'll meet a woman and blah, blah, blah. So they kind of fleshed this all out. And I think they wrote a first draft in a fairly short amount of time. And they took it to James L. Brooks, who is a producer who got his start in television with writing episodes for shows like The Andy Griffith Show and That Girl. He's one of the co-creators of The Mary Tyler Moore Show. And going into the 80s, he started writing and directing and producing feature films. And he wrote, directed, and produced Terms of Endearment, Broadcast News. Later, he directs As Good as It Gets. And as a producer, he produced, obviously, this movie, but War of the Roses, Jerry Maguire, Edge of 17, which is another one of my favorite movies. And so they end up selling the script to Brooks. Brooks buys it pretty quickly, and then apparently it takes about a year for them to rewrite it.
Those were the days where you can just have an idea right in a couple days and then get the thing sold in an hour.
Apparently he was very much a stickler for logic. Even in fantasy, things need to be grounded in some kind of logic. Why does Zoltar make him big and not make anybody else big or grant anybody else wishes? He's a 13-year-old kid in a man's body. Like, could he have sex with this woman? So these are all kind of things that the writers had to kind of figure out. They came up with the machine is unplugged. That's how they solved that issue.
That's a pretty cool concept, though, when he sees after it's all said and done, the thing's unplugged. I like that.
There's a very odd story that sounds very strange today. I imagine it was very innocent at the time. But apparently Ross and Spielberg took a bunch of teens out bowling to talk to them about their sexual experience, how much sexual experience they had, to try to figure out whether Josh would even know what to do or like how awkward it would be. And ultimately they decided they went with Judaism as their explanation. He had a birthday. He was 13. So he was technically a man. He had a rite of passage into manhood. This was obviously a way for them to justify it to themselves. I think it's such an innocent movie, though. Like I said, maybe kids today, they have problems with lots of things. Maybe I'm sure it's problematic for some people. I don't know. It never seemed like a big deal to me as a kid when I saw it. Or even growing up, for that matter. Anne Spielberg had been to FAO Schwartz. She had seen a similar piano, which was much smaller, I think 1 octave. And she came back to Ross and said, hey, we got to put this thing in the movie somewhere because it's sweet. And Ross kind of ignored it for like a month. And then while they're working on the script, they needed a way for Josh and Macmillan to like meet and bond, to explain how Josh gets the promotion. And Ross was like, hey, that piano that you were talking about, let's have them do a duet. So that's how the piano makes it into the movie. There is a note that I never heard Ross or Spielberg talk about this Italian movie, Do Grande from 1987, which involves a semi-similar plot line of a kid who wishes to become big and ends up becoming an adult. I think it's probably just one of those instances where just similar ideas.
Like Deep Impact versus Armageddon or something like that, or Dante's Peak versus Volcano.
Now, apparently several directors passed on it. Wikipedia says that Steven Spielberg was at one time attached. From what I could find, and Spielberg talking about it, that isn't necessarily the case. She didn't necessarily want to work with her brother on a movie, didn't want to be in his shadow. But I guess he did come to her and says, "Hey, I heard you got a hot property. How come you didn't bring it to me?" So he did read it, and I think he did give notes on it. But he was preoccupied with other engagements. So I don't know how true it is that he was at one point lined up to direct it. But apparently it had been turned down by several people. Brooks knew Penny Marshall.
And a lot of the people that they say were potential people that turned it down, it seems like probable, like a John Landis or Ivan Reitman or John Hughes, even Richard Donner. I can plausibly see it being passed around.
Ron Howard, I think, got brought up.
Yeah. And then they go to Penny Marshall.
Penny Marshall had just done Jumping Jack Flash, was her directorial debut, but apparently she was brought in pretty late, so she didn't really develop Jumping Jack Flash. She kind of slipped into the director's chair. I don't know how that happens if you've never been a director before, but she comes from a showbiz family. Her brother was Gary Marshall, of course, and she had been an actress for at least 10 years at that point. So
maybe she directed on that show,
And so Brooks brings in the script for Big and says, "Here's your next movie." And she said, "Okay." She read it. She liked it. There was a lot of the Universal themes and stuff about it that she really liked. And, she just kind of took it and, made it her own.
Now, do you find some of the what ifs here? Like, I read that we get into the what ifs of casting for Josh. There's like all over the map. Most of them are conceivable that you could see some of these, like a Robin Williams or like a Dennis Quaid and stuff like that. But then they say that a lot of studios weren't interested in developing it until they actually got, of all people, Robert De Niro attached. And that's kind of interesting because at the time we talked about 8 months ago when we had done Midnight Run, he was coming off those heavy movies like The Mission, Untouchables, and Angel Heart, and he was looking to do something comedic. So it does seem like in the realm that this could be something where he got into it and he was potentially cast. And that's when the studio is kind of, "Oh, you got De Niro. Okay, we're into it now." But it just seems out of everybody that they throw around, Bill Murray, all these people of what ifs, or even Gary Busey, although, he was turned down. It wasn't like but even Steven Guttenberg, like these are people I could see being in the role. It's weird to think De Niro in this, I'm not saying he couldn't have done it, but, he wouldn't have been my first choice unless, he is, box office gold at that point, but that's like getting Al Pacino in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What year was Midnight Run? I think
it's 88, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I think just that his clout was enough to get people interested.
And thinking how interested he is because they cast him and he's doing stuff with it for a while, and then there's people who like Kathleen O'Hara says that she read with him and stuff like. So there's people, or Meg Tilly. There's people who said they did do reads to see the chemistry test.
Yeah, no, he was cast in it. There's a lot of the names. Apparently, when Spielberg was going to direct it, he wanted to do it with Harrison Ford. There's all kinds of lists of Kevin Costner, Steve Guttenberg, like you said, even Warren Beatty, Dennis Quaid.
But see, there's people like Albert Brooks and Warren Beatty who I would have thought even at the time would have been a little too old.
Yeah.
Because you think only 3 years later, Warren Beatty's doing Dick Tracy, and he's kind of even, it works in that, but he's old.
Yeah.
This would have worked for them better like in the 60s or 70s, those two guys. But like, again, Guttenberg or Robin Williams or stuff, I feel like more plausible. Even Dennis Quaid, like those they were the right age to do this.
Yeah. The only two people that I have heard from the research from them, from people talking about who are involved, was Sean Penn.
Yeah.
Who apparently Penny Marshall thought was too young, and De Niro, who was cast in it. And they were actually going to rewrite the movie to model it around Robert De Niro. So
yeah, make him like more urban and stuff.
Yeah. So instead of being from like the Jersey suburbs, I guess the Marshalls grew up in the Bronx, so they were going to set it in the Bronx, and Penny Marshall brought the writers to her old neighborhood just so they could see what it was like, and they were going to rewrite it as that he was like this urban kid who was kind of street smart, and it went far. In fact, David Moscow, who ended up being cast as the young Josh, he actually auditioned when De Niro was attached, but for the Billy character. Elizabeth Perkins was cast opposite Robert De Niro, so she probably read with him as well. De Niro ends up, but one thing we should note is that before all this, apparently, Gary Ross and Spielberg wrote the movie imagining Tom Hanks in the part. And that Tom Hanks was offered the part, but turned it down. And then they went through the rest of casting and they cast Robert De Niro. And then
but it seems like a lot of the people that were in the running turned it down. They say Gutenberg turned it down because he's doing Three Men and a Little Baby, or Dennis Quaid turns it down to do another movie. And then I read somewhere that he regrets it now. So there's a lot of people who, aside from Gary Busey or Sean Penn, everybody else that the internet says that they approached, they were the ones that turned it down, you know?
Yeah. I mean, who knows what the truth is?
Yeah. Like, you know, the Harrison Ford passed, Kevin Costner passed. And I don't see, those are people like, I don't know if Harrison Ford would have been right, or even Kevin Costner. It just would have been weirder, been more serious. You know, I think you need a comedic, again, like a Gutenberg or like a Robin Williams.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately Penny Marshall ends up kind of doing this with De Niro in a very sad, more serious movie of Awakenings later.
Sure.
But which De Niro's great in. And
Robin Williams, yeah.
So De Niro drops out, unclear why. Penny Marshall says that he was unable to make a deal with the studio, but who knows?
Because he wanted more money, right? He wanted like $6 million.
And they end up either going back to Tom Hanks, or Tom Hanks ends up coming back around and says, yeah, I'll do it. Maybe Penny Marshall wasn't attached at that point. I don't know, because they knew each other, because Bosom Buddies and Laverne and Shirley was still on at the point that Bosom Buddies was on, and it was on the same lot. And apparently Tom Hanks would go over to where Laverne and Shirley was being filmed to watch. And so Penny Marshall,
all the way to Milwaukee.
So apparently they kind of knew each other, and maybe that had something to do with him coming back around on it. But Tom Hanks is preoccupied with contractually obligated to work with another movie that I saw in the movie theater, Dragnet.
Oh, yeah. I saw that when that came out on the movie channel. That's a fun one I need to revisit, because I'm such a fan of the original show. And I remember being a comedy, but I feel like Dan Aykroyd has such a affinity for the original show. He was doing it for fun. Because I think that was really, not to go down a side road, but I think that was planned to be a serious movie until Jack Webb died. He died of a heart attack or so, like in maybe 1980. But they were planning to do like a reboot again. And then he took it and kind of like molded it to become a comedy. So that's another one I haven't seen for 40 years. But when it was on the movie channel, I watched the shit out of it, you know. And that would have been an interesting thing. I mean, there's just so many weird things in here of people that, you know, like, I mean, they even talk about like John Goodman. You know, it's like, how could John Goodman be you know, it'd been weird. You'd have to get someone who looked like John Goodman at the time as a kid, you know.
Oh, I'm sure there were plenty of kids that looked like John Goodman.
Yeah, because I mean, this is like around, isn't King Ralph a couple years later?
Yeah, well, King Ralphie is definitely during Roseanne. When did Roseanne premiere? I guess that was probably around this time, right?
Yeah, because he's a heavier guy at that point. But in the early 80s, if you're an astute commercial watcher, he was in a crap load of commercials back then. He was more of a like a football jock kind of looking guy.
Yeah,
You know,
he had been in Revenge of the Nerds. And
Chud, right?
And I believe Chud, which stars John Hurd.
Yeah.
Now the big dilemma comes in pre-production and development of this movie is that even though Big was greenlit, rewritten, 1988 rolls around, and there are several similar movies. Now they're much more in the Freaky Friday. Most of them are in the Freaky Friday vein of like someone, either fathers and sons switching or grandfather and grandson,
vice versa.
So all these kind of like kids becoming adults and vice versa. Movies get kind of like announced and they're going to be coming out that year. And so Big has the dilemma of, okay, well, we have to wait for Tom Hanks. So do we recast it and still beat the rest of these movies to box office? Or do we wait for Hanks and end up being the last movie of this kind of run? Obviously they wait, but some classics like Father Like Son, starring Dudley Moore and Kirk Cameron.
Yeah.
18 Again, starring Charlie Schlatter and George Burns. I think Charlie, if I'm not mistaken, Charlie Schlatter was cast as Ferris Bueller in the TV show.
Oh, yeah, which didn't go too long because it ran up against Parker Lewis Can't Lose, and that kind of blew it out of the water.
And
I watched the pilot,
and Parker Lewis couldn't lose.
Yeah, he didn't lose. And then, of course, vice versa with Judge Ryan Holt and Fred Savage.
Which is probably the most famous of them. There was also a television movie called 14 Going on 30, which was not a vice versa Freaky Friday type. It was about a high school kid who had a crush on his teacher and ends up, I think through like a science nerd, becoming an adult so that he could woo his teacher, I guess.
Yeah,
it's on
if that's
YouTube.
what you want to call it.
I watched some of it on YouTube.
And then what about the whole Deborah Winger connection? Because then there's things that they wanted Deborah Winger because Penny Marshall knew her, but then she's pregnant at the time, she can't do it. Or Deborah Winger she's trying to ask them to change it to a girl, but Penny Marshall doesn't want to. She wants to leave it as a boy. So she was in the running for a minute or two.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've heard those things too. I don't know any details of that.
What your sources are telling you?
Yeah, the interns did not dig up any more. But so this ends up going into, they wait for Tom Hanks. It takes about a year to rewrite the script and they go into production. They shoot it in Jersey and New York. Pre-production stuff after it's cast and everything. Marshall ends up videotaping a lot of the scenes, kind of in improvisational or even directly with David Moscow, a lot of Tom Hanks's scenes.
The kid.
Yeah, who plays the young Josh. Because,
and like you said, he was cast as the friend, but then because he didn't look like De Niro, but once De Niro left, they were able to recast him as the young Hanks.
So he
with contacts.
He auditioned for the role of the friend of the Billy character, but then when Tom Hanks got cast, they brought him back in to read for the.
Do you know him from anything else? I don't know if I recognize him from any other.
Yeah, he pops up occasionally still. It's funny. I guess I was going to say the only other thing that I remember, Jared Rushton, who plays Billy in, which is not true because he's in, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, right?
Oh yeah, you're right. He is.
But the only other thing I kind of really remembered him from is there was a movie adaptation of the book Hatchet.
Oh yeah.
Called like Call in the Wild or something like that. And So he was the kid in the movie adaptation of Hatchet, which wasn't called Hatchet. I think it was called A Call in the Wild. I'm not positive about that. With the Hastings brothers, I went on a deep dive of the Call of the Wild movies. Funny enough, how that started. Little side street. I bought a copy of Munchies, which was like a Roger Corman Gremlins ripoff, to watch on a late night viewing with the Hastings brothers, who Steve did the theme song for the show, and the late Dave. We talked about him when he passed away, but he also did a Silver Bullet episode with me, kind of impromptu. They lived with me at the time in Portchester, and the previews on the front of the Munchies DVD were like the Call in the Wild series. And
I mean, a series of movies? Or
yeah,
TV?
there's like three. There's at least three of them, and it's like Call in the Wild. Now, these are
based off a Hatchet.
Yeah, so these are not the exact titles, but the titles are like A Call in the Wild, A Call in the Wild, The Call of the White Wolf, and then like White Wolf 2, A Call in the Wild 3 or something crazy like that. It's some wacky stuff. Now, reason why I'm bringing this up is because one, Jared Rushton is in the first one. David Moscow, I'm almost positive, is in one of the other ones.
Oh, wow.
Alongside, I don't remember I've watched Steve Hastings, and I ended up watching all of them, having a movie marathon late one night when he lived in, actually, I think in Albany, when he moved back to Albany. Several Saved by the Bell cast members are also in the movies, and just Elizabeth Berkley, Mark Paul Gosselaar. So it's a it's a wonderful series.
And isn't that around the same time as Fang too, which is the
probably like White Fang and
or is it White Fang? Yeah, and isn't that kind of isn't that the Jack London Call of the Wild?
Call Call of the Wild is Jack London. But anyway, it's Call of something.
Yeah.
The Hatchet ripoff or Hatchet adaptation. So the two of the only things that I know either one of these guys from are from that movie series.
And one of them's in a Barbie commercial, Barbie and the Rockers, which I remember Barbie and the Rockers because my sister collected Barbies, but I don't recall the commercials for it.
But the one who plays David Moscow, who plays the young Josh, he's popped up as an adult in things. I can't remember off the top of my head. And
so you said that Penny Marshall would videotape him doing the scenes as Tom Hanks, right?
It's a Cry in the Wild.
A Cry in the Wild.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a 70s like Cry of the Werewolf. It sounds like one of those Asylum movies. Or not Asylum. What's the other not Hammer, but the other company that was at the time. I'm thinking, I don't mean Asylum like those B movies they do nowadays. There's another, with the Peter Cushing did a couple of them. I forget the name of that company.
Full Moon classic.
Yeah. But, so she videotaped him doing the Tom Hanks scenes, right? And then would show him to Hanks so that Hanks can get the stuff, the kind of, and then hung out with him a lot.
There's a couple of things. She had him she said, hey, he was there with one of his friends.
That's a lot of work too.
She said, hey, like, show me what you would do if you wanted to keep this ball away from your friend. So she videotaped David Moscow and his friend, the friend trying to get the ball away from him, which later shows up in the movie. And she had David Moscow do a bunch of the scenes with Elizabeth Perkins because even though he might be doing the exact scene, he's a kid. So like to him, that's an adult woman. Whereas for Tom Hanks, it's just naturally like a peer. Tom Hanks also spent a lot of time hanging out with David Moscow and Jared Rushton just to kind of like observe how they acted with each other. Tom Hanks also had a son that was somewhere around the same age at the time. And so he brought things in that, he observed his son doing, which also the Shimmy Shimmy Cocoa Pop thing was something that his son did with his friends.
Yeah.
And
so he brought that to the table for the movie.
Yeah, they needed basically a device that when he shows up at the gym as adult Tom Hanks and freaks the fuck out of Billy, they needed something that Billy would recognize, like, oh, and come to believe, like, oh, this is my friend Josh. And so Tom Hanks said, hey, my son does this thing. What if we do that?
He learned it in summer camp or something. Which is actually, I think, from a Little Anthony and the Imperials song from '59. Great little doo-wop band, if people don't know Little Anthony and the Imperials.
And so they make a classic.
And then we got Mercedes Rules as his mom, and people will remember Sleepover Fanatics. Remember we covered her. She was in the Warriors.
Yeah.
Remember she's on the park bench there and gets Ajax, aka what's his face?
James Remar.
Yeah, James Remar. And so she's there. The father I don't recognize.
No, and he's only in that one scene. I've always thought it's very strange that the dad's only at the carnival. Like, does he leave the wife after Josh gets kidnapped?
And watching it as an adult, I'd assume this is how she played the character, but of course, the whole tragic story with John Walsh, the America's Most Wanted, how his son was lost and killed, kidnapped. So that was a big thing. And then there's that big New York, huge unsolved mystery of what happened to that boy, and that's how they kind of got the missing kids on milk cartons came from that case. So, watching it as an adult now, like, I so feel for Mercedes Rule because, all this time's going by. I don't know, maybe it's like a month or two, but, her son's been kidnapped, and this strange person's in her house. So she could be playing this completely straight, even though this is like a kind of semi-comedy.
Well, I think the wise decision of this movie was to, for the most part, play it straight. I think I've seen Vice Versa probably more recently than I've seen the other ones that came out that year, but I haven't seen any of those movies in a really long time. As you may know, Dion, I'm a huge fan of the Lindsay Lohan, Jamie Lee Curtis Freaky Friday, and just recently saw
that in the theater.
And I did see Freaky Friday.
No, I saw that in the theater.
I saw it in the theater as well. And I also saw Freakier Friday in the theater.
And there's a new one coming out, right?
That's the one. It just came out.
Okay. I thought they did it. Didn't they do another one between that?
There was, I don't know. There might have been like a Disney Channel one.
I thought this was the third in the Freaky or Friday series.
No, that would be Freakiest Friday.
Okay. Yeah. How was the new one? Any good?
Surprisingly good.
Oh, that's good.
Because the previews make it look really bad.
Yeah.
But like Big, it captures. It does a really good job of playing the emotional parts of the movie and the relationships of the movie, Freakier Friday. So I loved it. I was so shocked how good it was.
Are you a fan of the original with, Jodie Foster and, cause I remember I watched that semi recently the past 10 years. And what struck me the most about that was, they did a weird casting switch there where her father is played by, what's his name? Patty Duke's John Astin.
Okay.
Right. So so there's John Astin, and then he plays her father in it. And then, what's his name? Dick Van Patten plays the bad guy in it. And you would think it'd be reversed, where John Astin would be the bad guy. And, you never really see Dick Van Patten playing like a asshole, but they switch.
Yeah.
So John Astin's trying to like deal with everything, in a straight way. And then Dick Van Patten's kind of like the dick in it. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah. I haven't seen that one in a super long time.
Yeah, all that live action era at Disney.
But Big, it. The fact that so much of it is played straight, this movie could have been played much more jokey, much more over the top. I actually do think Hanks does go a little too OTT sometimes, but he's charming enough that it doesn't bother me.
It's OTT.
Over the top.
Oh. Which is a movie Robert Loggia's in that we covered in
one of our greatest episodes, I think. And my biggest problem is I don't think, which I think happens with all these kinds of movies, whether it's Freaky Friday style, vice versa style movies, is the adult always plays. I mean, yeah, the adult is always playing like a miscellaneous child. Never like the child that they are. They've switched. And I don't think there's nothing in the beginning of this movie that leads us to believe that the young Josh Baskin is like as outgoing as Tom. He seems like a pretty shy and quiet kid.
Yeah.
Unless he's around Billy.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily believe that like Tom Hanks as a child in an adult's body is the kid we see at the beginning of the movie.
What do you think? That's his arc then? Do you think he learns how to be more outgoing? Where what's her face learns how to be like find her inner child. He kind of finds how to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely that's her arc for sure. I think what really works, the concept is a great concept in that there's this kid who becomes adult, and the idea that like he's so innocent that he can't be really corrupted by, the corporate world. And yet his innocence is then this woman who thinks she's going to sleep with this guy to, climb the corporate ladder or something. She ends up being someone who is kind of saved with his innocence. And Robert Loggia, unfortunately, there's a deleted scene that should have stayed in the movie between Robert Loggia and Tom Hanks. But it's like Robert Loggia is this corporate guy who is kind of, he's not a toy maker anymore. He's a guy that runs this corporation, and he's kind of gotten lost in it, and he's kind of forgotten why he's done this in the first place. And Tom Hanks has kind of like rekindled that flame in him too. So it's not only like, does that world not corrupt Josh, but Josh's innocence ends up kind of like breathing new life into the people he touches at the corporation, which is great. And that life does start to affect Josh. And though it's not, I don't think it's affecting him in a bad way. It's just that he's growing up very quickly. Like,
yeah, he's getting used to everything.
Even though it's only about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 months. They say getting that piece of paper with the list of carnivals or whatever could take 6 weeks, might take longer. So let's say it's about 2 months that he's an adult. But I think the fact that everybody plays this movie straight, that there is that emotional arc, there's the emotional scenes when he is staying in the city by himself for the first time, and he's scared.
Yeah. I do really feel for him there when he starts crying and stuff like that in the hotel, and then there's shots outside. But then it gets funnier because he gets used to it. He's watching The French Connection on TV, turns the TV off, and there's still shooting going on outside, and he's fine. He's just eating his Oreos and stuff.
Yeah,
and all the stroke of luck of back then, where you could probably get by making things up. He makes up a social security number, all this stuff. They might not do any. I mean, there's a deleted scene where they're. John Hurd and her are trying to figure out, like, can they name all the companies at the time, like Worlds of Wonder and Mattel, and they can't find out where he's come from.
Yeah.
But nowadays, you probably get background checks in any job you get that is in a company, not like retail side. But you could just come out of the wind and not even, and then he got the job, and then he goes up pretty quickly. I mean, you have John Lovitz, which is great as his co-worker, and I love John Lovitz, so I forgot he was in this. He's got a very funny part. All the little, when you catch him like saying things like at the party, to the girl he's trying to sleep with. It's just funny, or he said that to Tom Hanks, like, if you say hello to her, she'll sleep with you. And then later on at the party, she's like, hi. And he just walks away from her.
He says something like, she'll wrap her legs around you so fast that you'll be screaming, you'll be begging for mercy. And he's like, well, then I'll stay away from her then.
Yeah, exactly. But it's fun because then, I got the impression too, sort of, that she was trying to, when she takes him from the party and is going to go sleep with him, maybe it's almost kind of like a revenge because she's not liking John Hurd.
Yeah.
But then, the suspension of disbelief, she kind of like, okay, because then at some point you think of maybe these people think there's something wrong with him. He's a genius, but maybe he's like on the spectrum or something because he's acting so weird. Or she goes home with him to his house and, it's just like a kid's house and stuff. And then when she's trying to make the very gentle overtures that she's interested, he completely ignores it or doesn't understand and stuff. But then that works in his favor because then, they're playing the board game together or, and then she starts to have this attachment. And then I also liked how, she's very attractive at the beginning when she's in her business outfit. She's, a businesswoman in the corporation field. But then as she starts having this relationship with him, she starts, like they say, she's not wearing heels anymore. Her outfits aren't as tight. Her hair is different. You kind of see her having this new life. And even Robert Loggia comments about it. And I picked up on that. And I was like, oh, this is nice. She's kind of like, it's not like she had a orgasm, quote unquote, or something, but it's like she's got this new life in her and she's taking it easy. And it's I like that. And even, like I said, Robert Loggia's like, I like what's going on with you and him. So keep it going. It's nice. And I absolutely adore Robert Loggia in this movie too. I think he plays this great part, and evidently they base it on the real FAO Schwartz CEO at the time, who was a mildly eccentric. So I think it's a great role for him too, because aside from like seeing him as a young actor, he was in a lot of episodic television, in the 60s and 50s and 70s. So when we get into the 80s, I mostly know him from movies like Scarface, or again, like, he's in Independence Day as a general, but like at the time he's doing like that tough guy and over the top. So it's nice to see him in this warm role, where he's not going to turn around, pull a gun out, or be this ruthless kind of, corporate CEO or whatever, and I see that happening a lot of times in real life. If you have a face-to-face with a CEO and the CEO likes you, that's all you need, and you can go up that corporate ladder that quick, and people get jealous of that. So that's kind of believable, where he kind of likes them and he's like, oh, he knows what he's talking about. And like you said, that deleted scene with the two of them where Robert Loggia is kind of opining about, he's out of the business, and they're both kind of like, musing about how the toys are much more complicated these days, and Loggia's like longing for the days where it was simple, but it was people liked the toys. And I liked that as well, because in the time, you think about everything that was out in the 80s that were always marketed to kids, and you hear that in the movie, they're talking about like, we get the kids watching before the parents get up, and then as soon as the parents get up, all they're going to hear is what the toy that we're trying to sell them, So that was very much, as we've covered in the G.I. Joe or Transformer podcasts, the marketing to kids through all this stuff. It's nice to see Loggia. He's not like that in a way. He's kind of like more of a Sandy Clausy kind of a guy who likes, he's in it because he likes toys and he thinks they can have a benefit to kids or whatever. So it's warm and comforting, and I enjoy that aspect of it.
Yeah, he's also like, they're trying to tell him the demographics. He's like, look, a kid either likes the toys or he doesn't like the toys. So he likes the toy, he's gonna buy it.
And that comic book he comes up at the end of the movie is a really good idea for the time. The choose your own adventure that way, where
yeah, especially for us being like comic book kids at that point.
Yeah, that would have been a great freaking, it probably would have been rudimentary like the video game he's playing, but still it would have been the computer game, but it still would have been really cool, because in that age group, we were in fourth grade around this time. Choose your own adventures were huge at that time. I remember reading them in school. Our public school I guess they did it every year, but our public school in our town did a pairing with another public school, and then the two classes got together and we all got to write a chapter or a page or do illustrations and all that stuff. So we did like our own book of a choose your own adventure. I think it was called The Mysterious Will. I forget what it was called. And we had copies of it, which I don't have anymore. But so that was a big thing back then. So I think that really, you wonder what happened after this movie ended, because they run out of the board meeting, everything happens. And then, a nice little like denouement would have been like, her, Mercedes Rules starts getting checks in the mail, and it's like the royalties, because the what's her face knows who he is. So maybe she was cutting him checks. That would have been nice, that why are we getting all this money in the mail? It's because of all the royalties they're getting off from this comic book that he helped devise.
Now, as we dive into the casting more thoroughly, I do want to point out and ask you the scene where in the beginning, Josh wants to go on the roller coaster, but he's not big enough. It's the inciting incident that starts us on this journey. The guy who's the ticket teller who says, "Look, read the sign. You can't go on." Do you recognize him?
I do recognize him. I thought he looked familiar. I couldn't place him though. I was like, but that guy looks like I've seen him, but I feel like he was clean shaving. And I'm like, maybe if I had a mustache or beard on him, I might recognize him from somewhere.
You are correct, sir. He played Steel in Day of the Dead.
Oh, you're right. That's crazy. He's the crazy army guy he wears like the blue blocker glasses.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I knew he looked familiar, but I just couldn't. I was like, oh, he looks familiar with facial hair or something.
He's also in, I believe he's in a Cyndi Lauper video, and I believe it's the She Bop video, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
But every time I see that guy, I'm like, hey, it's fucking Steel from Day of the Dead.
We did Day of the Dead, didn't we?
We did do Day of the Dead. So this is Gary Howard Clark making his return appearance to the sleepover.
A lot of repeats on this. And then, like I said, there's a deleted scene with Frances Fisher playing Billy's parents and stuff like
mom,
that.
Yeah.
I find that scene hilarious because it's just like my childhood, like, the arguing and stuff like that. And then in the background the whole time, every time he's trying to make the call, you hear like, get off the phone, and they're screaming downstairs or whatever. I don't know if Frances, I feel like for some reason, I feel like she's been on the podcast too, but I don't know where.
She does. You can see her. There's a shot where Billy's leaving the house, and there's like, I don't know if it's the police or the news or somebody are standing outside of Josh's house, and there's like a small crowd of people standing on the sidewalk. You can see her in that scene, but you don't know it's her unless you see the deleted scene when we see Billy's home life for a scene.
And it's funny because also Josh's baby sister, when they bring the crib into his room, my sister had that little pillow that's in her crib that like looks like a doll. My sister had that exact same pillow growing up. I remember that. And then his robot pajamas he gets into when he comes out of the bath when she's sleeping over, and she's got like that sexy New York Jets. I had those pajamas as well.
Were they robots or were they GoBots?
No, they were it's like not GoBots. It's like a knockoff.
So GoBots is like a knockoff of Transformers, but
those this is like
pajamas were a knockoff.
Yeah, they're just called like robots or something. I had those pajamas, and I was like, oh, it's so cool. And then seeing that pillow, I hadn't thought of that in 40 years. I was like, oh, my sister had that growing up. That was on the bed just like as hers was, the baby, So it's just funny seeing all this stuff come back. Or the comics, there was the G.I. Joe comic that's like on the rack. I had that too. It's just funny.
Yeah. So I will admit, probably the first time I've ever admitted this, but I have been.
It's only you and I.
I have been in love with Elizabeth Perkins since seeing this movie when I was a kid.
Really?
So, to this day, I have a crush on Elizabeth Perkins, and I think she's great in the movie. I think, yes, obviously makeup and hair and wardrobe is doing a lot to present her kind of transformation from like the hard ass businesswoman to the softer love interest. But I think she does a fantastic job portraying it. There's a lot of actors that could probably be great at doing one or the other, but I think she does a great job of doing both, and she plays that arc like really beautifully. I'm with you. Love Robert Loggia. Love him in this movie. It's nice to see him get to do something that's, he's not playing a heavy. But I think the two show stealers of this movie are John Hurt and Jared Rushton. I like John Hurt anyway, but John Hurt, in my opinion, is so great in this movie that he should have been nominated for a supporting actor part. He does a great job of playing like an immature bully.
Even scenes when he's underplaying it, like when he's getting drunk and stuff, or he's sitting in the meetings, I don't want to say he's eating the scenery like he's stealing the scene, but there's a lot. It's great. He's really bringing that. We've all experienced people like that in the workplace.
Always loved John Hurt, Chud, all the movies that he's done, but he's particularly good in this movie. This movie's super well cast, and the chemistry between everybody is great. He plays such a good asshole, but he's funny in it as the asshole. And Jared Rushton, who plays Billy, they struck gold finding him for this part. I think he, like, in the deleted scene, you see like why he's probably more independent and that his home life isn't great. But if you take that out, you don't know that about the character. But he portrays someone who is, it's like John Hurd is an immature adult, but in a lot of ways, Billy is a very mature kid. So it creates a really interesting dynamic. He's great at reacting to things. The way he reacts to stuff, even with just looks, are really funny. Of course, a lot of that has to do with editing and direction, but still, kid actors can be super fucking annoying. But he does a fantastic job. And you believe his independence. You know, he's like, you don't see Josh being like, I'm going to take the bus to New York City, but it seems like Billy's done it before.
Yeah, he knows what to do. And you, like you said, you give glimpses of his home life to see that he leaves a lot, and the parents have a relationship where they let him, I just got to be home by 10. Even it could even be a school night.
Yeah.
And
like you don't see it in the theatrical cut, but if you watch the deleted scenes or the extended cut, you see maybe more of an explanation as to why he might be more independent.
And then you wonder if roles were reversed and Billy became big. You know, this got me the question thinking how many people of the era would have stayed big. You know, if your home life isn't great or whatever, you know, it's a perfect way to just slip away and stay that way forever. You know, you don't need to come back to that life, you know? So it says something about his relationship with his home family and stuff that Josh wants. He longs for his mom and his family and all that kind of stuff, you know, almost shades of, what's her face? Connolly in Labyrinth wanting her brother back, you know? So it's not that he's like, I hate you all. It's nothing like that.
Yeah.
Where you get in Labyrinth, but it's like, if Billy turned into this, maybe Billy would stay that way, you know, and just say, screw it. I'm going to stay. I got a hot girlfriend. I've got a great job and all this stuff. Although he wouldn't have been able to get it unless he had the skills also that,
the computer
Josh
skills
had.
that would have gotten that job.
Yeah.
But my point is that you kind of believe him, that he kind of knows what to do. He gets his dad's clothes. He gets money. He's like, why they choose the city, a device for the movie. They could have just got him a motel, you know, in a town over, but they decided to go to New York. But he's like, hey, this hotel looks like he's like, we're going to get you a place to stay. It takes him up to the thing, and he's like, you better use the chain. And then he leaves that apartment.
Yeah, and there's like a gunshot minutes later.
But Billy leaves, goes to Port Authority, gets on the New Jersey, transit bus back to New Jersey. And then he comes like, a bunch.
Every day he's going there, yeah, until they have that kind of falling out or whatever. It's completely believable. And it's just funny, yeah, because then, and you wonder how even the guy who's running the St. James Hotel isn't really taken aback by they want a room. You would think there would have been a little joke there, like a la Leon, the professional, where it's like, well, why do you it's a boy and a kid. What do you want a room for? It's this is an hourly hotel or whatever, that but they don't go into that.
That part is played by a gentleman named Rockets Redglare, who I think was a comic and clearly had some issues early on, but he ended up dying at age 52, not too long, obviously after this movie, and that I don't know how old he is here, but 52 is pretty young to die. But Rockets Redglare plays the guy at the motel. But Um, yeah. So, Rushton and Hurd bringing it. I just always, look, clearly this podcast, whether it was conscious or not, revolves so much around nostalgia. But in a way, this movie, not just because it was made when we were a kid, but there's something about that, the overall concept of like being a kid and wanting, like not wanting to wait till you grow up. That I think is kind of universal and nostalgic because it's true. And that I feel like all kids kind of have those moments. And now as we watch it as adults, we can kind of more sympathize and empathize with Josh and Billy in those, when it becomes time that he should go back. I think it's a really great scene where Billy comes with this stuff and he's like, look, it's at Seaport Park or whatever, Seaside Park. And Josh has become businessman by that point. And he's like, damn it, Billy, this is important. And then there's that pause and Billy's like, well, I'm your best friend, man. Like what's more important than that? It's just it's those moments. It's the relationships. It's the, groundedness of the performances and the script for that matter that I think really kind of make this movie unique for this kind of a high concept movie. 'Cause this could have been something more in line with the movies that came out. This could have been like The Nutty Professor. Like this could have been really much goofier, but I think Penny Marshall put together like a fantastic cast that all had great chemistry. And even though like I said, I think Hanks might overdo it sometimes, ultimately, I think he does capture like the emotional, like groundedness of what's going on like really well, which makes when he's playing with the cherry or whatever moments that might seem kind of out of character for what I feel like we set up young Josh Baskin to be like, it makes it all work. And Tom Hanks is charming enough as an actor to kind of level it all out. And even though it might go a little too over the top, it kind of evens out with the way he manages to hold on to the innocence of the idea and that character. And then really kind of that emotional arc that's happening. Like we said, like when he cries in the hotel room for the first time or first night, even like it's much more subtle, but like the idea of like the first day of a job and, like going to this party and, just kind of being a fish out of water, situation. And then having this developing romance, with this woman. It just, I think it really works. It's in a lot of ways, they kind of captured lightning in a bottle with this movie, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I like how he takes you to the right playland for a date. And then, you get the scene that, the Zoltar is there. And then, they go dance to Moonlight Serenade, which is one of my favorite songs. It's a Glenn Miller song. And I was like, oh, it's Moonlight. That used to be my ringtone on my cell phone for years when you used to have to buy a ringtone to have it. And I love all that. And then, I was thinking, when he's slow dancing with her or whatever, it's like, oh, me, like, even though he's 30, 13-year-old me would have probably had a stiffy, in a lot of those scenes. But it's nice that she doesn't try to pressure him or, call him out on like why you acting so weird or whatever. She kind of just goes with it, and then this romance develops naturally, and it benefits all because then they like each other, and then you see the metamorphosis of her and then him, and it's they're kind of like two ships in the night passing, where he's becoming more of an adult, she's becoming more of a kid, and it really works out. It's nice these little moments you get in this, or him playing handball with John Hurd and that whole scene, like you said, keeping the ball away. That's funny, it's just. It's nice, the little things that they're able to put in there.
Yeah,
that are like authentic.
and I mean, and the ending, setting aside whatever inappropriateness anyone might carry looking back on this movie, 30, 40 years or whatever. We saw this when we were, like you said, around fourth grade or whatever. And I don't know, it never, the relationship never seemed weird to me. But we grew up with it. So, the ending is bittersweet, right? I mean, even when he just says, look, I thought a lot about it. There's a million reasons for me to go home, but there's only one reason for me to stay. And she says, well, what's that? And she says, you. And so, like I'm, as I think most of our listeners know, like I'm a romantic. I'm a very big rom-com guy. I'm a very big Hallmark guy. I'm very much about romance. And I find all of that like really poignant, and it works. I think, when she shows up at Rye Playland at the end, and he's made the wish, and he's like, well, I tried to tell you. And he's just like, well, I didn't hear it, or, what was I supposed to think? I think it's a very realistic reaction. She has such a great reaction. There's a deleted long sequence where she starts to kind of suspect or believe him. I think it plays better in the theatrical cut because it goes from that, like, he tells her this and it's unbelievable, and she doesn't start to realize it until they're at the meeting and they're pitching this idea for the comic book. And then she starts to realize, like, oh, like, yeah, like only a kid would come up with this kind of thing. And then he leaves, and then she goes after him. And so, like, she has that realization there. And when she gets there, she's like, well, it was crazy. Like, how was I supposed to believe you? It's just such a great ending, and it's so kind of sad, but happy in that he's going home. And, of course, now as adults, even though neither one of us have kids, like, we can, I think, relate a little bit more to the Mercedes Rule character, the idea of that her son just like disappears.
He's on a milk carton now.
And when he walks in, and you hear her screaming, like she's so, excited and relieved. And the last word, I always thought the last line of this movie is so crazy. Where it's just like, oh my, I miss y'all so much. But then I guess we see Billy and Josh kind of like walking off into the sunset kind of at the end.
There's going to be so many questions he's going to have to answer, like, FBI will be involved interviewing him, and like, where have you been? Why are you protecting these people? You don't know. So it's like, what happens in the sequel the days afterward. It's just interesting. It's just funny. It plays out very well. And then it's the deleted scene, like you're saying, where she goes through his wallet and she's like looking at stuff, and she has a kind of the realization in the deleted scene that, he's a kid, because there's like a Don Mattingly baseball card in there, or there's other kind of stuff. She kind of, I guess, gets the hint of it there that he's the kid, but like you said, in the theatrical cut, that's cut out, and her realization is kind of in the board meeting.
Yeah. And then she kind of like tests it where they're at the newsstand in the deleted scene, and she's like, will you get me a pack of gum? And he picks Bubblicious. Yeah. Which is what a kid would pick. And so there's these hints that maybe she's coming around to it. Some of the other stuff in the deleted scenes, like the Robert Loggia scene in the office that we talked about earlier, I think is great. There's other stuff between him and her that I think could have stayed, but I like that big chunk of the ending where she's starting to maybe come around, or starting to suspect, or starting to at least open up to the idea that, wait, is he telling me the truth? Like, what is going on? I think the ending plays so much stronger for me without that stuff. It gives her, when she's there and she's like, why was I supposed to know? Like, that makes sense without that stuff, because she hasn't suspected it until now.
And then he gives her the choice too. He's like, be young with me. And she's like, I can't, I've already done that.
Yeah. She's like, it was hard enough the first time.
Yeah. So that would have been interesting to have her do that.
That's big too. I'm surprised they didn't do like a TV movie starring two other people where.
Well, they tried to do a TV
with
show
like Shelley Long. Somebody else.
Yeah, and like Bob Saget or somebody. They tried to do a TV series for it with Darren McGavin as the Robert Loggia character and some other people, but then they only did a pilot. I wonder if that's on YouTube. You can find that. That'd be interesting to watch because I'm a big Darren McGavin fan.
Yeah.
That was the Darren McGavin connection to Big. But yeah, it's funny, and they never explain away how the enchanted Zoltar, and it's funny because that must have given a revitalization into the Zoltan character, because that was a real fortune telling kind of carnival game that was around since the 50s or 60s. But then after this movie, that's almost now as iconic as the piano. So I remember seeing that must have breathed life into it. And then I guess somebody in the 2000s actually patented the name, and they actually have that game out at places that, it's the Zoltar one from Big. You can, I don't know if you can put a coin in its mouth, but
yeah,
but it's freaky looking when it, when they have it opening its mouth, and it's really kind of weird looking.
Yeah, it is strange. Like, I've seen cheap knockoffs of them at places, but I've never seen one that looks like that.
It's like a vintage one.
It's a great design, and because it is very mysterious, it is kind of creepy, but also I think it's another great instance to kind of illustrate like the power of filmmaking and sound. Howard Shore did the score for this movie, and I think past a certain age, Howard Shore, for certain generations, people past ours, is known for doing the Lord of the Rings movies. But for like film fans and cinemaphiles and horror movie fans, he's done almost every David Cronenberg movie, as well as he did That Thing You Do, which Tom Hanks directed. So he's done other things, but I think he the mysteriousness, and when I was a kid, I always thought that the scenes with Zoltar were really freaky, and it has to do with like the music, and there's like
yeah, it's very much like Friday the 13th, the series. Like they're gonna have that in their collection.
But the sound design and the music like really sell it as being mysterious and kind of scary. It's
yeah. And then I saw Sol Bass was in this too. He does the titles and stuff, and I think he did all the Hitchcock stuff.
He did a lot of the Hitchcock stuff. I don't know if he did all of it, but yeah, Sol Bass did. I think he did Vertigo, which is the really famous one. But he did a lot of the Hitchcock. I'm sure he might have done some of the. I shouldn't say because I don't know for sure, but he might. I feel like he may have done some of the 007 ones.
Yeah, I had a feeling that he might have done some of the ones as well.
But it was also shot by Barry Sonnenfeld, who was a director of photography, cinematographer, who had done Blood Simple, Raising Arizona, 3 O'Clock High, which is a classic, Throw Mama from a Train, When Harry Met Sally, Miller's Crossing, Misery, before he settles into directing. And of course, he directed, just brought up John Aston. He directed the Addams Family movies, Addams Family and Addams Family Values. He did Get Shorty, directed the 3 Men in Black movies and Wild Wild West. So we have Barry Sonnenfeld behind the camera on this one before he goes off to kind of direct a bunch of blockbuster movies himself.
Yeah, everybody kind of had their own thing and went with it and became pioneers or very famous in their own little profession. Penny Marshall and everybody, they kind of established themselves to be actors or the people behind the camera and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Penny Marshall was not the first female director, but
for this, then they say that she's the first female director that directed a movie that made over $100 million.
Very well could be. I mean, but she was doing it at a time where it was, I mean, it still is very much a boys' club, but she was doing it at a time where it was almost exclusively a boys' club. But like Ida Lupino had directed stuff, so she wasn't like the first.
And what's her face, Bigelow?
Catherine Bigelow, yeah,
Catherine Bigelow and stuff.
But still, it was very much still a boys' club. So the fact that it didn't hurt that she had been in show business for a long time, but not to take anything away from her, because she did a great job, and she directed a lot of really great movies, going on to Awakenings and League of Their Own. And but my point is to give her props for coming in and in those positions, she had a lot to prove, more than most people would have, and she succeeded. So she did a great job.
My awkward memory of this was when the scene when he undresses her, and then you see her bra, and he starts like playing with her breast a little bit. I guess they said originally, according to the internet in the script, she wasn't supposed to have a bra on, or she takes the bra off. Now that would have been some steamy stuff back then.
Yeah, that would have been a little too steamy.
Too steamy for PG. Oh no, maybe not.
PG-13 maybe. It was that.
Yeah, but even some PG stuff. You back then you used to get some breasts and stuff, which was crazy.
No, I think
stuff on in the video store.
I think the way it's played here, I think is kind of perfect. It's innocent. Yeah. His reaction to it is both comical, but also very innocent in a way.
And you could tell they had a great night because the next day they're both coming in bouncing and smiling and all that kind of stuff. So the young buck that he is, he probably, was an all-nighter kind of a thing. And love at first sight.
He probably won a few rounds for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's why she's like, my gosh, you're like what is it, like in Revenge of the Nerds? Like, my God. And he's like, well, while all the jocks are out, we're doing this. That's a movie I haven't seen in years, Revenge of the Nerds. So yeah, it's fun revisiting this because of all these things, and getting to see the New York at the era and all that kind of stuff. And then Rye Playland, which has also come up in I think a Mariah Carey video and Fatal Attraction and stuff. I like, I always remember that the ending takes place there, so on that boardwalk. So it's fun seeing that, and it's just although, like we said, it was harder to pick out the other spots in New York that they filmed at, aside from FAO Schwartz.
Yeah, I would have liked to have more.
Like establishing or wider shots. There's
that weird shot. It's kind of still towards the beginning. It must be. It's where it's maybe before the diner where he's like playing with the cherry in his mouth, and it's those steps. It's like these brown brick steps. Tan brick steps, and they're walking along the steps, and then they stop, and then there looks like there's a walkway where there's where there would be like a moat or something.
Yeah, it's some sort of like design, like some sort of artist design.
Yeah, I was trying to figure it out. I was like, where is that? And that's what I think when I'm looking at the surrounding buildings. I kind of feel like that might be in the financial district.
Yeah, possibly.
His apartment is probably on Canal Street. Just because a lot of those lofty, whenever I see like a loft apartment in a New York City movie, I always think, oh, it's on Canal Street.
It's down there.
But
and they said that Tom Hanks turned down Planes, Trains, and Automobiles to do this, which is, I don't know if that's true, but that would have been weird to have him. I would assume he would have been the Steve Martin role.
Yeah.
And then I forget he's in Nothing in Common, which is Jackie Gleason's last movie, and that's something I've never seen either.
I think I saw it as a kid, but I might be mistaken. Maybe we should do a first time watch of that for the show.
It'd be interesting because I don't know how successful that was, and it's sad that that's Gleason's last movie. But I don't know how how successful that was or whatever. Maybe it was big when it came. No pun intended. When it came out, but I don't know. That he might be coming off of that before Dragnet.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's certainly a fun movie to visit because, like even like for me, like where we used to live in Yonkers on the Woodlawn border, like where he lived, that looked very much like the neighborhood, so until they didn't establish it that they were on the Jersey side, I was thinking maybe they're somewhere like in the residential area of Westchester, but they're in like Cliffside, New Jersey, wherever, I don't know if that's real or if it's a fictional town. Cause they don't mention Rye Playland later. They name another sign. They like it. It's like, I forget what they give another name to the park.
Like Seaside Point or something.
Yeah. So seeing all those streets and then like, cause then even like when they go, like when they're walking around, they first see the girl they like when they go to a pharmacy or someplace, that almost looks like very city-ish. I was like, oh, maybe they're in the Bronx or something. When you see her walking down with all her friends, and she seems slightly interested in him. She's saying hi.
She's nice. Stuff. She seems nice anyway.
Yeah. And then until the boyfriend shows up when they're in the line, but then I didn't know if it was going to swing. There's never any payoff with that. Like sees her and like, hey, I'm gonna, show you something at the end of the movie or something. Like he, kind of like ups the boyfriend or something. So,
Well, yeah, you have to imagine Josh is probably, it's all fine and dandy once he gets home, but he's probably emotionally scarred for quite a while after this movie.
Because of what happened and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty traumatic. I mean, yes, there's a lot of positive things, but it's a pretty traumatic experience for a 13-year-old.
I mean, he
kid.
might even just like older women now. Now he's like becoming that dude who's like, coming out of the teacher, and the teacher's like, Josh, come on, this is inappropriate. It's like the Van Halen video, "Hot for the Teacher." He's like, come on, this isn't.
Could be. He could be stuck with looking for older women now. But I would imagine. I mean, it's a big life change. And it has to be a matter of weeks or months, because you think about it, they are in school, but there's like the carnival.
Well, they say on the milk carton, it's like September 87 or something when he's kidnapped. And then when they bring him back.
Oh, yeah. It's my birthday,
it's like fall.
Actually. The milk carton he went missing on my birthday.
Oh, there you go.
And then, but it's autumn.
It must be before Halloween, or maybe Halloween's past. So we never get the Halloween kind of like, they could have threw that in that it's Halloween season or something, but they don't do that. But it's not Christmas yet.
No,
we don't get
the leaves are still on the trees.
Yeah, they're falling off and stuff like that. So I would have loved to see like a little, even a novelization follow up of this, to see like what happened. Is she like stalking him now as a kid, or
also
like I said,
big? Is
he getting like
small?
Yeah, maybe we can write like a fan fiction.
It would have been that she decides she does decide to go back to junior high, and we get the sequel of Small, where she comes back.
Oh, and she's small again, and she's like, it's me, but then for some reason she's not attractive, and he's like, it could go so many ways. And she gets brought up on charges, and she's trying to explain it to the police. I swear it's not an indecent relationship, all this kind of stuff. And, I don't know. It's certainly interesting. It's funny. The walkie-talkie things, again, going back to
Spider-Man walkie-talkies. We should get those.
Yeah.
Even though we will not be able to talk to each other.
There's ones because I've looked at that for emergencies. There's ones you can get that like, have a distance, even if like the system goes down, because at one point I wanted to get walkie-talkies and I actually bought them, but then they didn't, after a mile, they don't work, because especially where we live with the city, any kind of flat planes work fine, but if there's obstructions, you lose that signal, the RF signal. So it's just,
damn it. That would have been great.
We can get some sat phones, Remember the old Nextels?
Lay in bed and talk on the walkie-talkie.
Yeah. What the hell are you doing? Just talking to Blake. With my flashlight on under the sheets, reading my comics. So yeah, this is a fun one. I don't know. Is there anything else that I feel like they, I guess did 2 Indian remakes, maybe in 2004 and 2009, Bollywoodish kind of Indian remakes. And then there was a Broadway musical in 96 that ran for maybe 6 months or so.
I guess I kind of remember that.
To October, which was scored by David Shire.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did the music and lyrics by Richard Maltby Jr.
David Shire came up on this podcast. He scored Return to Oz,
and he scored Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Oh yeah, and
dun dun dun,
which is one of his great scores. I still have an interview with him that I've never. I need to edit that and post it.
That's one of the best scores of the 70s.
Former husband of Talia Shire.
Yeah.
And he also did The Conversation, which is one of my favorites.
I watched that when Mr. Hackman passed away.
One of our favorites, yeah.
Yeah.
And Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3, one of our favorites too. He's now married to, oh man, her name's escaping me off the top of my head. She plays Frenchie in Grease.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is like, he has a type because she's kind of Talia Shire-esque.
Yeah, he looks like, yeah. Now, another what if here was Brooke Adams. Is Brooke Adams in the remake and Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Is that
she is? That's Brooke Adams. Yeah.
Yeah. She was vying for the role, but she didn't get it. But supposedly she wanted it too. And then Penny Marshall wanted John Travolta, but at the time studios were like, he's box office poison. And that was kind of like right before he kind of did Three Men and, or no,
Look Who's Talking.
Look Who's Talking, yeah. Because I remember he was doing a lot of those straight-to-video movies until I think Pulp Fiction kind of rejuvenated his career or revitalized his career, and he had a second career then. But in the 80s, he was, it's almost like Harvey Keitel there. They were doing some clunkers. But
whoa, Susan.
Yeah, can you believe what happened to me? I got a strut. Yeah, I don't know. What else is there? It's just funny. It's because, and then going to the Yankee game, that's fun. That was the era when I used to, follow the Yankees. So I was a big Don Mattingly fan because I was left-handed. He was left-handed. He had a sweet-ass mustache. I always liked that, and all that stuff. So it's great seeing the old stadium. And I had that old Yankees jacket from Starter because Starter was out of New Haven. So I had the little Starter New York Yankees jacket.
I feel like having a single shot or a very short scene in the context of a montage at a baseball stadium was kind of a thing. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I'm sure that.
I'm in the scene in Three Men and a Little Lady. The only time I went to Shea Stadium that day, they said, "Oh, we're shooting the scene from Three. If you want to be in it, do the wave." And I did the wave.
Nice. So, you'll have to get that baby on 4K.
Yeah, and
pause it for maximum clarity.
As a IMDb credit. I was there.
Baseball fan.
Uncredited.
Dion Blake.
Three Men and a Little Lady. And then what else? But I don't understand. I mean, not that I don't understand it, but it's like us being that age watching it. It never occurred to me that it was inappropriate. You know what I mean?
No.
Because in the childhood, especially a boy's childhood, you're having those you're getting into puberty, you're having thought, and we know how the 80s is with everything. So it never occurred to me that the relationship was indecent. It wasn't like a Lolita situation. I'm sure you could have presented it that way had you, honed the script differently, but when you have things like Hot for the Teacher and those kind of videos that were coming up when we were little and all these other things, it was a little more, I don't know, not accepted, but it was a little more understanding that kids have crushes on their teachers or whatever and stuff. So even I never thought when I was, 10 watching this that I'm like, wow, he's 13 and she's 29. It's like, no, it's like he's an adult now and he's having,
you buy into it. I mean, I think, look,
imagine they seal the deal and then he turns into that is what breaks the spell.
Teen Witch style.
Yeah. So, or what's the one with the Monster Squatch? It's like something. And then all of a sudden she's like, and he's like, what? He's like, oh. They realize. Whole different kind of movie.
Yeah.
Who the hell are you? I'm Josh, I swear.
Well, look, I mean, kids these days, I remember seeing, I didn't comment on it, but I remember a couple years ago seeing a Twitter exchange where people were dogging, I believe they were young women. I could be mistaken. And they also might have different pronouns. I don't know. But I remember there was a couple of people on social media kind of getting on Back to the Future's case.
Because of the incest?
Nah, but it was like, I guess, but there isn't really any. I mean, she doesn't know that he's her son and he's not going after it. But it was like,
well, he certainly, we know in the movie, they make it explicit that he understands and it's not like he's into it,
Yeah, exactly. And they're also talking about, like Biff is basically going to rape her. And it's like, well, like when are like bad guys not allowed to do bad things in movies? Like that's what makes him a bad guy.
Well, they had a problem with that.
Yeah, like, don't even get me started on Biff. And it's like, well, that he's the villain. Like that's what bad guys do. Yeah, they do bad stuff. That's why that's why he's the bad guy.
Well, you can't have you can have a problem with his thing, but in the context of the movie, it seems
it's
plausible.
not like he's being rewarded for it. It's not like he's the hero of the movie.
They like, you did it, or there's other movies that probably do that or whatever.
And, of course, Billy Zane and the other guy, like when the band gets out of the car, I mean, I feel like there's maybe some kind of
reefer addicts.
People look at that as a derogatory. It's like, these guys like saved the movie.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, now at that point, you're kind of nitpicking. You're looking for problems.
Yeah, it's like,
we need to bring back movies like Porky's and stuff and all those.
Yeah, the R-rated.
It's also,
comedies.
it's an issue of not having the right, you're looking with the modern mentality of stuff.
Well, that's exactly it. And the thing is, they don't realize that like they're kids, and they're going to look back at the way they acted and have a problem with it. Yeah.
Or they won't have a problem with it. They'll just have a problem with how they were acting.
Yeah.
It's silly. You can't judge. That's a big thing here. We always try to put put context these movies so that we, as best as we can.
Yeah. And I think for the fact that this is an 80s movie, which was kind of like a little bit of the era of the raunchy comedy. Like
this was the era.
Yeah. Like,
to have them go watch Bachelor Party.
That's what I mean. Like, starting in the late 70s through, I mean, they tried to push it as far as they could into the 90s.
Some of these kids have problems now with American Pie and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that seemed to me like, even though that's 25 years ago, that seems recent to me.
Yeah.
Compared to these movies. So, I mean, people like, when everyone was watching the live stream of What's Her Face, it's like, there's a lot of issues.
Yeah,
there's like a lot of those trigger warnings now on that stuff. And it's like, at the time, I never thought of that. It's just it's funny in the context of the movie. I'm not looking at it to have.
Yeah, it's not real life.
Yeah, it's not painting a picture of. It's not a drama.
It's not a documentary.
So it's just. I mean, we had that issue with Falling Down where people were. Well, one person got mad at us. Comments about that we were trying to like make excuses for him. I'm like, we're just trying to explain the situation. We're not commenting on it.
Yeah.
Because that movie's looked at with some aspersions nowadays by people, and it's like, why? Just understand when it came out what was happening.
Yeah. But I mean, the point that this movie does come out like in the thick of kind of like the raunchy comedy, and we get this like really kind of touching, pretty wholesome movie that plays for both kids and adults. I think is pretty like it's commendable for how well this movie was kind of conceived and put together.
And it could have been much more raunchier had you wanted.
Yeah, raunchier, or like I said, even just goofy.
Yeah.
Like it never goes goofy. The fact that they played it this way, and I think it's a testament to the script and Gary Ross and Ann Spielberg. I mean, I've always liked Gary Ross. Like I said, I love the movie Dave, and I wish they would make a new Dave today, because I think we need a sequel to Dave right now. I think would make the world a better place. But it was a good script, and it's just like I said earlier, they just kind of they captured life, lightning in a bottle. Like it in the 80s. It's just like it could have gone so many less classy ways, whether it be more sexual or just more goofy. But instead, they ended up making a movie that can play to audiences of all ages and kind of works.
Yeah. And I'm glad they didn't have to use body doubles for the piano scene. Because they had like body doubles on hand if they couldn't do that little chopsticks and the other thing, but they didn't. Loja and Hanks got through it.
Yeah, from what it was hard to really understand like the prep for that, but they made the keyboards out of cardboard and sent them to Loja and Hanks. But from what I could understand, it seemed like they rehearsed it independently. Probably had the parts played out on an actual piano, to listen to so they could hear what their parts were. Because like Loja was in France or something. So they sent the cardboard to Loja in France, and he said that he set it up in the backyard, and his dogs very quickly decided to go to the bathroom on it. But they seem to, from what I could understand, is they seem to practice it, rehearse it independently, and maybe, I don't know, maybe didn't even do it together until they were on set, which I think also probably added to kind of the spontaneity.
Yeah, they have the day of rehearsal, and then when they're getting ready, and then they do it, and then they're just, all right, let's just film it. You got through it. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, it's a good movie. Good callback for the old days, you know? And we're hitting those 80s movies. You know, it's our niche right now.
Yeah. We'll see what the future holds.
We'll see what the future holds. Do you have any final words?
I don't think so. I think we covered it pretty well. I mean, I think I got across what I love and think works about this movie. And yeah, I mean, I feel like it does. I think it fits nicely with what the movies we've been doing, just in terms of tone and kind of the emotional aspects of what we're doing. I didn't really realize. I mean, I knew we were doing all 80s movies, I guess, on some level, but to me, it was like there seemed to be a connection more thematically and mood and tone wise going on with the last few movies we've done. So, and I think this kind of fit nicely in there. We were trying to figure what we could do, and I don't know. I guess it's because I had seen this movie a couple times in the last few years. I was just like, you know what? What about Big? I mean, I think it falls really well into the childhood nostalgia part of that the show's always explored, but I think has kind of hit a little bit harder this year, even though we didn't necessarily do movies that so far this year that were like absolute staples for us as kids. I mean, you did watch Daryl on TV a bunch, but this is a movie that obviously I saw as a kid, but has started to appreciate more kind of as an adult looking back at it as I watched it in more recent years and really come to appreciate it. So yeah, I think it's fit nicely into the catalog. And I would wager that this is probably a movie that I'm probably not the only person that feels strongly about this movie. So I think it's it was a good one for us to finally get around to do. We always think about, like, there's so many movies, like how many big movies from our childhoods like are there left? But I think this one shows that, like, this was a pretty big hit. And even though, you know, it wasn't necessarily a staple for us watching it a million times as children, it does kind of capture a moment in time for us, and I think is kind of a nice nostalgic look back.
I certainly think it's you know, it seems that we, like you said, the more we think about what we don't have, you know, these movies, we keep coming up with them, and it's another good one to get in the books to add to the catalog, because it's certainly a seminal movie, and it's good to cover it, and it's fun. You know, it's a movie from our childhood, and we keep coming up with these. Like, oh, how about this one? We're like, oh yeah, that'll work well.
Yeah, I think sometimes we accidentally or inadvertently kind of overlook some of the really big ones. I mean, the ones that were, of course, there was like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Batman, but those were movies that were big for us. But I think there's a lot of movies that were big, again, no pun intended, that were like really huge movies, both critically and financially. That's like, oh yeah, I think we try to go down the alley sometimes, and I think we forget about the ones, the low hanging fruit that's still sitting right in front of us.
Yeah, we got a lot of those. So it's good we got this. It's good. It was good to give an excuse to rewatch it again, because I hadn't seen it, you know, since back in the day. But
I mean, looking back now as people in our mid 40s, older than he is when he becomes quote unquote big. I mean, and it was not a movie you had seen a ton over the years. You only seen it when you were a kid. I mean, looking at it from an adult standpoint, you know, how did you feel about it?
I liked it. Yeah, I thought it was good. It certainly kept my interest and all that, and I was finding it enjoyable and fun, and all the scenes I remembered were great, and it hit my soft spot too. It's a good script and everything like that, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed an excuse to to rewatch it, where it would have been something I would have picked up again necessarily, but it's good to have the excuse to rewatch it and enjoy it. So yeah, I liked it.
So this was not a big one for the missus.
Oh, she loves this damn thing.
Then you might have revisited it at some point, just because
she thought we had seen it already after we'd gone to Ride Playland, and I was like, no, I haven't watched it. I was little. She's like, no, I swear we watched it afterwards. She's like, well, I have, and I was like, well, I didn't. So you must have did that without me. But yeah, she's seen this just like you. She knows the whole thing back to front, that rap and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So she loves this movie.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's funny,
I think we've talked about our first visit to Playland the day of July 4th when we saw Terminator 3.
Yeah.
But after that, Playland became a bit of a staple for me for a couple of years because I lived very close to there. And so it was in that aspect, it was very nostalgic looking back to watching it. Be like, oh, Playland. That's what it used to be like.
And this was also the day that I remember Barry White died. Was that day we were all driving around looking for a strip club in Stanford that was closed that night because we had nothing to do.
That was the July 4th.
Yeah, that was all that one night we were driving around and all that stuff. 2003.
The T3 July 4th.
Yeah, the T3 extravaganza in that movie theater. That's just funny. Yeah. Yeah, this was good. I'm glad we watched it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I think before we end, though, I should give a shout out to a fellow podcasters that made a nice mention of us, the Cabot Cove Confidential. It's a podcast about Murder, She Wrote, and they said on a recent episode some very nice things about us, and how they follow us and listen to us. And I love myself some Murder, She Wrote. I'm a big Murder, She Wrote fan.
I know that about you.
Yeah, so it was nice to hear that they mentioned us on their cast. They mentioned Grease and stuff and all that. I forget what else they did, but that was nice of them to give us a shout out. So right back at you, everybody over there, ladies and gentlemen.
It's nice
of them
that people listen.
Yeah, do a crossover, talk about some Murder, She Wrote. I'm ready to go. So yeah, thank you guys for that. That was very nice of you. So go check that out if you're a Murder, She Wrote fan. It's called Cabot Cove Confidential, and they do a hell of a job summing up some Murder, She Wrote. So. This was a good time, and we'll be back soon. We have something planned for our anniversary. I don't know if we can fit one in between that, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our anniversary is right around the corner.
I know. That's what I mean.
There's a lot of prep for that. So
we didn't even know if we could do Teen Witch, and we threw that one in. So if we get something like that out, who knows?
Teen Witch was very impromptu, but
it was very impromptu. It was on a school night, for Christ's sakes. For the sake of Christ. So that's really about it. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for listening, as always. As we always say, buy our books. They're on Amazon.
Buy in bulk.
Buy in bulk, as John Pizzarelli would say. That really supports us, helps us out. And Blake, you're up to some wonderful things, right? You've got your documentary going.
In the middle, it's still working on a documentary. It's tough, but we're working on it. It will get done. Books are out. Scored to Death, Conversations with Some of Horror's Greatest Composers. Scored to Death 2, more Conversations with Some of Horror's Greatest Composers. Scored to Death documentaries still in the making. But you can also get the Scored to Death compilation albums, Scored to Death Musique d'Horreur, and both limited edition mystery color vinyl and CD. Those are available at scoredtodeath.bandcamp.com. And I started playing music again. So that's been fun. Haven't done that in about 8 years. So I did a 3-hour gig in Atlantic City last week.
Wow. Did any gambling?
Kicked my ass, but it was outside on that like Thursday night where it was like 1,000% humidity. It was raining and it's so muggy. On the set lists, which were on a piece of paper, not even that they got wet, but they were just damp. It was so humid outside. Wow. But we're going to be playing there again in September. Not my band. I've been fronting this other band. with a drummer who used to be my drummer 20 years ago. But that was fun, getting out there playing again. It's been nice to kind of knock the rust off and getting out to playing some music. So that's what I've been up to, just making a documentary and playing some guitar and singing some blues. What do you got going on, Dion?
Not much, just contemplating the ifs. I got my 2 books, Blood in the Streets and Morris P.I., The Men from Ice House 4. They're both on Amazon. You can get them in paperback, ebook, audiobook, and writing some stuff now, which will hopefully come out soon, and, doing things here or there, acting on the side a little bit. And that's really about it. You can find that stuff on YouTube if you look. And we're all on social medias. You can check us out there and the podcast as well. You can follow us. Drop us a comment, we'll reply and stuff like that. And, we should have something coming out pretty soon, which will be fun. This is the end of August already, 2025. So, before you know it, we're going to be into the fall months.
That's our busy season.
Yeah, that's where the shop gets really going. So we got to hire extra staff for that. All the seasonal workers. So, we'll be back before you know it, and with some fun stuff. And we got a fun one planned for our anniversary, which will be really nice. It'll be really exciting. I don't know if we should drop any hints.
No, well, okay, and maybe not, just in case we change our minds.
But it right now it does fall right in line with what we've been doing, the era. So that's fun.
It's a big topic, but it's a movie that's near and dear to my heart. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So it's something I haven't seen since childhood either. So that'll be exciting.
Going way down the alley for Dion.
Down the alley. So we'll see you everybody really soon. And I don't know. God willing, the creeks don't rise, as Hank Williams used to say. We'll be seeing you soon.
Later.
Dion and Blake every Saturday night. Popcorn's popping, the pizza's in sight. Movie marathons till the morning light. Just friends watching movies on a Saturday night.